Hello, welcome to Calls with your Kinky Bestie. I'm Emma. I am a submissive and mentor for fellow Kinksters. This podcast is all about insights into kinky life and dating, sharing my personal experience and stories, and help share mindset shifts too to get you into a confident space, more confident than you are now. So get ready. It all starts now. Oh, hello, my little besties. How was your weekend? Let's get you excited for this next week. We're driving. Oh my God. Am I the worst podcast host ever? The world may never know. We are diving into one of my favorite topics as of lately, because I fully acknowledge that I have ADHD and my topics of interest change on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So this might change later, so let's talk about it now. Well, I am really interested in this topic and have so many thoughts that are fresh to say about this. So we are talking about service submission. What this is in kink. So this is a desire to serve your partner in some way. Can be a really beautiful piece of your submission practice to care for your dom, because oftentimes the desires we have in submission are to be taken care of by others. So, sometimes we also have a desire to take care of our doms, or maybe, that this is your dom's love language is to be cared for and acts of service, or something that their brain understands and loves and values. So let's show that love for them in the ways that they love too. So if you do not have a dom, that is okay. This episode is for you too. I'm actually also a big part of this episode is going to be talking about ways to be a service sub to yourself, actually, to make space for manifesting service submission with a dominant partner too. So this is for you either way, if you are just desiring a dom and desiring this to be part of your kink practice in some way, or if you currently have a dom and are looking to, be a good service sub to them, even if you have ADHD or just executive functioning issues or struggle with the consistency piece. This all ties in. So very excited to do this. Let's just dive in and talk about it. So how does this relate to ADHD? So if you have a desire to take care of your partner and, take some types of tasks and services over to do for them, if you have struggles with executive functioning, or again, if you are just a person who tends to hyperfixate and get really excited about something once, but 3 months from now, it's hard to say if you'll, still be on that train and if this is still something that you'll be wanting to do later. Or who knows, maybe 6 months from now, this is still like the hot topic of your life and you're just finding different nuances for it. That's okay too. But if you just really don't know, we're gonna talk about how to automate and set systems in place so that you can still care for your partner in lovely ways, even if it's just not the hot topic for you anymore, because our lovely domi partners deserve that consistency from us too whenever we can create it, and we can absolutely create it even if we have issues with executive functioning. And you don't have to do it in a way that's like hard and pushing yourself every single day to meet that standard that you once set for yourself 6 months ago. And, now also you're actually hyper fixating on something else and want to add 5 other, things on top of that, because that's not realistic. That's not kind to you. That's not kind to your partner either. So let's just not go there. Let's talk about, just systems to navigate service submission, even if you have ADHD or are neurodivergent and struggle with the consistency piece or just completing certain types of tasks. So let's do it and let's get into this. So first things first, if you have a desire to care for your dominant and service them in some way, we have to, it still is going to take time to do. So the first thing you got to look at is really, clearing up your life a bit, because you can't do everything. You cannot do all the things. So let's make space so that you can service them. And that's, probably going to be a good fit anyways. Because, if you have ADHD and just like some sort of, some types of executive functioning tasks, then getting them off your plate so that you can instead go do cool kinky shit and untie your partner's shoes, that's fucking cool. Let's do that. And even if you don't have that dom yet, this is going to be a great manifesting tool to really create space in your schedule and in your capacity and in your bandwidth to care for a partner before they show up. So then whenever they do, oh my gosh, great, you've already got all these cool systems in place so that you have time and the capacity to spend with them and to service them. That is really special and beautiful. So in the efficiency productivity space, you've probably heard the terms eliminate, automate, and delegate. We're going to be talking about those things. I also have a couple others that I personally add in, which is systemize and batch, and I'll kind of take you through as well, like the order that I try to do these things in. But first I'm going to take you through how to go through these steps for yourself to eliminate or at least minimize the amount of time that you're spending on the shit that you don't actually want to do, to again, make that lovely space to do that for your partner instead, or just to spend more time on the the tasks and the pieces that you have this lovely desire to do instead. So elimination. What are the things in your life that you're doing, but actually no one has to do this, and it would be okay if this task never got done ever again? Like, the world wouldn't explode. You might not even get an email about it. Like, just what would happen if no one did this thing? If you look at the tasks of things on your to-do list, like, what would happen if no one did this? So an easy way to find these items is, if you have a to-do list, look at the items on your to-do list that have been there for months and you haven't done it because you don't want to do it. But that's actually okay, because it's still been on your to-do list for months. Like, your life looks different now. This thing doesn't actually, need to get done because the world hasn't fallen apart without it getting done. And it's pretty clear you don't want to do it if it hasn't happened all these months later. So just what are the things that you can totally take out of just take off your list altogether? There might be some things you'll find on the list that maybe you initially put on there because, 3 months ago you did want to do this thing, like the idea of maybe a weekly walk with your neighbor sounded like a really good idea, but for some reason, it's not happening. And if it's not happening and you have ADHD, if you want it to happen, it probably would happen. So why isn't it? I'm of the mindset of why on earth would you force yourself to do something that you don't want to do and doesn't need to happen? Because there are ways that you can reach your goals in a way that you actually want to do. Like, things don't always have to happen a certain way. You can achieve amazing things in your life with ease. You can achieve things, you can reach your goals in ways that work, again, with you and your lifestyle and your desires, and, not always totally going against them. So let's get that clear right off the bat. So what are the things that we can just take off, and it's cool if no one does this ever? Amazing. They're crossed off. We're not thinking about it anymore. And we are moving on to the next step here, which is automation. So what are the things in your life that, yes, need to happen, but there's still a bit of a strain and you don't really want to do them? Like, you find yourself having to force yourself to do it. But there's, already a machine or a piece of technology or some sort of service or software out there that can do it for you instead, or at least make it a lot easier and less time consuming for you. Because this is 2023, there's a robot for everything. So for me on my list, this was things like dishes and like cleaning my floors. Like, I do not clean my floors. I don't do it unless I actually, the only times I would find myself actually doing those things is if I had some sort of motivation around fear, like, or, criticism or rejection, like, someone's going to come to my house and they're going to see my dirty floors and, judge me for it. So I'll clean my floors even though I don't want to so that they don't see it, so those kinds of things. So I invested in a fucking robot, one of those floor cleaning robots that is so cool. And just, totally takes that off my plate. So all I had to do, I had to buy that machine the one time. And every 6 months or so, I have to clean parts of it or like replace a part. Sometimes mine is a mopping robot too, so sometimes I have to like refill its water or clean out the dustbin. But it's getting this thing done for me. Every day, every week, I have clean floors because I just did this thing this one time and I very rarely do these maintenance pieces around it. And right now I'm actually looking at ways that I can can batch up, which we'll get into later, to batch up those tasks so that I have to do those things like the refilling the water tank and cleaning out the dustpan even less. But yeah, right now I basically spend 2 minutes a week to clean out the dustbin. And maybe I'm spending 2 minutes a week over the course of, a year to replace the parts and wipe it down every once in a while. But I have clean floors. Yay. I also, got myself a lovely washing machine. My apartment didn't have a washing machine. It wasn't really set up to get an actual washing machine, so I ended up getting a countertop one. And that's so great. And honestly, some of these technology pieces, I kind of counted as delegating too. Like, this is also just someone else. I kind of humanize my technology. So my robot vacuum, I named Mr. Hardwood. And yeah, Mr. Hardwood cleans my floors. He's amazing. And my dishwasher, my countertop dishwasher is named Antonio, just because, I don't know, I think that's so fun that a little dude named Antonio lives in my kitchen and cleans all my dishes for me. Like, thanks, Antonio, you're doing great. So, I find a way to make it fun and make it like a thing that I'm motivated to do. But also, like, this is something that makes sense for me and works for me and my brain. So I get pleasure and enjoyment from opening up my countertop dishwasher, seeing clean, sparkling dishes and putting them away. Like, I enjoy doing that. What I did not enjoy about, washing my dishes was touching dirty dishes, was getting, my hands wet, my sleeves wet, having to wash, sponges and washcloths that got a little stinky in the sink. And so, it just wasn't a fun time, and it took me a really long time to do as well, because I get distracted pretty easily, especially if, it's something that I don't want to do. So look at machines, but look at technology too. Like, maybe there's some sort of reminder that can be set, on an ongoing basis, that at least remind you to get this thing done if it actually does need to get done. Maybe there's some sort of online service or subscription you can invest in. There's even tons of, like, this, again, this is 2023. There's so much technology out there that oftentimes, like, they're pretty generous, free, either trials of things or even just free, services that aren't, at that pro level able to do everything for you, but can just automate some pieces of your life. So I highly encourage you, as you're doing something that you don't want to do, just spend an extra 5 minutes while you're already in that flow state of doing that thing and do some research of like, what's a way that this can automatically get done so that I don't have to do it? Because I know this actually does need to get done, because if it didn't need to get done, I would just eliminate it and not deal with it. But yeah, what services or subscriptions or technology exists to help you automate that task so that it can happen, with less of your participation or even none of your participation. That's, that's really ideal. Okay, so take a little break. When we come back, I'm going to take you through systemizing, batching, and delegating as other ways to take shit off your plate. And then we're going to talk about how to do this for a dom in the service submission context and why you would want to do that. Okay, chat soon. Just a little break to share that if you are loving this podcast and my content, if I'm someone you could see yourself working with, but you're wanting more direct support for your specific situation, I do offer mentorship. It's personalized to you, private video or phone calls with me, so you can chat about your situation and figure out a solution that's going to work for you. You can visit my website. It is kinkybestie.com/mentorships to see what's available and to book in your spot on my calendar. It's kinky with a Y at the end and bestie with an IE at the end. The link will be in the show notes, so you can check it out there. Back to the show. Okay, hi, we're back. We talked about eliminating tasks and automating them. Now let's talk about systemizing them. So what are some of those things that are on your to-do list that you're doing regularly, but that maybe there's even just a tiny little way that you could make this a little easier on yourself with some sort of system? So one of the things that comes to mind for my personal life is laundry. So obviously, I need to have clean clothes. Laundry needs to happen. I do have technology that helps me. I have a washing machine, which might sound like a no-brainer for you, but I actually have lived without a washing machine before, where I had to wash my clothes by hand or take them someplace outside of my home to get them washed. So getting a washing machine was such a game changer. But, there's not a machine yet that takes your dirty laundry to the washing machine and folds it and puts it back in your drawers yet. That can be delegated. We'll talk about that later. But for me right now, that's not really at the list of priorities to delegate, because the systems I've set in place make this easy enough that I don't really mind doing it as much anymore. So again, try to do this in the flow of the task as you're doing it, while you're already in that mind space. And maybe if it's like a paperwork type tasks, sometimes it's hard to create those systems if you're not already doing them, because then you have to track down passwords and account numbers and phone numbers and stuff. So it's really just easiest, especially if this is something you don't really like to do, to just do it in the moment while you're doing it. So as I was doing my laundry, or just taking my laundry to the washing machine, I was noticing the steps I would have to take. So for me, that was, I had clothes everywhere. So I had to go from room to room and collect my clothes together that needed washed. Obviously then taking them and washing them. But I noticed that the putting away clean laundry piece, I would avoid a lot too. I would just avoid the task of folding and putting away my clothes. So to systemize that, I guess this kind of ties into another piece too, which is eliminating a little bit. I just eliminated one step of this little routine of doing laundry, which was actually folding them, because I realized that's what was holding me back. And, I just asked myself, hey, do I actually need to have clothes folded? Probably not. It's actually probably okay if my underwear and my socks aren't folded up, if my t-shirts aren't folded up. Even if, the other clothes that, maybe the reason I was folding them was because I didn't want them to be super wrinkly. Well, guess what? The system I can set in place instead is just getting clothes hangers and and setting up my wardrobe in a way where I can just hang all the clothes that don't need folded. So I just totally cut out the step of folding them all together. But I still need to, put my underwear and my socks somewhere. I'm not really a drawer person. That doesn't really work with my brain either, where things kind of get, visually hidden away. So the way that my wardrobe works, and if this is something you're specifically interested in, ADHD systems for clothing and laundry, go to my Instagram. I've recorded a whole tour of my closet and have a whole post about ADHD hacks for closet organization. My Instagram is, kinky bestie. That's it. And that's probably linked in the show notes too. But yeah, the way that I systemized that was, because I think before I was folding up my underwear and my socks and putting them in a rolling cart so that I could still see, where they were, but they weren't tucked away in a drawer. But I actually switched over to a over-the-door hanging shoe organizer. And the reason I did that was so that I could still see all the things I need. It's all clearly laid out, but, I can just tuck my stuff into a little cubby. So I put my matching socks in one cubby. Another way I systemize this is, instead of having to pair all of my socks, I got rid of some of my printed socks and just switched to matching, gray and white athletic socks. Or maybe if there's a pair of socks you love, well, can you just get 10 pairs of that sock you love, so then you don't have to constantly, fight the fight of matching them up together? Because, all my athletic socks that matched are the same color. I just put them in one cubby instead of having to match them in sets of two. I just wash them as I use them and put them back in that cubby, and then I've got, this endless bank, and I just have to pull out as many socks as I need for the day, So it was just a way that I was able to systemize that, to cut out some of the steps that were creating resistance, and just, ultimately making this thing easier and faster, this thing that I didn't want to do. So, okay, after all that, the next thing, if you can't get rid of the task, it still needs to happen. If you can't automate it with the machine somewhere, if you can't systemize it to be done easier, or maybe you can systemize it to be easier, but you still want to take it a step further, cool. Let's look at batching. This isn't possible for every type of task, but it is for a lot of tasks. And batching is to either, do that task multiple times at the same time so that you don't have to week after week, pull that, task out again and do it then. It's also can be grouping different types of tasks together so that you're doing them all at once, kind of when you're already in the same headspace too. So what this might look like for laundry, maybe, your routine now was to do laundry every day or every 2 days. A way that you could simplify that with batching, if it would make sense for you, would to instead just be to do all of your laundry all at once. Maybe social media is part of your job, so you're probably pretty familiar with batching. That'd be, can I create all of these posts at the same time and just schedule them to go out when I need them to? So then, you don't have to open Canva 5 different times and hunt down all the fonts you need. You can just do it all at the same time. I'm actually batching right now. I batch my podcasts, so I record multiple podcasts at once, and then I schedule them to go out every week because I struggle with the consistency piece. I am a cyclical person. I have a menstrual cycle that really affects my energy, so how I feel at one part of the month might be totally different than the other. So I batch so that I don't have to record podcasts whenever I'm in the space where I don't want to record podcasts. Because I do, this is something I really enjoy. So I just kind of maximize on the periods of time where I'm really hyperfixated and excited about talking about podcast topics. I'll just do it all at once. It's just more efficient. And again, it safeguards me from that consistency piece whenever I'm not feeling like I want to do a podcast the next week. But yeah, you could also do this by grouping types of tasks together. So if there's, those paperwork kind of technical tasks that need to happen, or maybe types of tasks that needs to happen on the computer, like medical things, can you group multiple types of tasks together and just get that shit all done at once and maybe create some sort of system around that? So again, combining with that system piece, maybe you can set up a reminder to go off every 2 weeks to, just reminds you to round up all your tasks that need to happen and doing them all at once. Oh, and then the last piece of this is delegating. So if this is something in your life that needs to get done, but even after looking at automating, systemizing, batching, or delegating, or, well, you've looked at, all those pieces except for delegating, this is still taking capacity and it's just not something that you want to do. Well, maybe you could just delegate it out to someone else entirely. So instead, all you've got to do is, just make sure you're paying this person or something on a schedule, or maybe that's even automated. So it just automatically comes out of your bank account and this thing is done for you. So whatever, we're talking about laundry. Let's just keep talking about laundry. You could totally delegate out your laundry. Like you could get like an in-house, person to come to your house and wash your laundry for you there. And maybe they're doing that alongside other tasks that need to happen in your home. Maybe it's working with a laundromat that can do some of those pieces for you. There's just so many different ways this can go. Again, delegating can also be, working with some piece of technology or machine that can be considered delegating too. But this is especially important if you're really operating at a level, if you are a skilled person who has some sort of, of job that is able to pay you, like you can, instead of spending 5 hours a week on laundry you hate, if you're able to pay someone to do that for you with 2 hours of work that you care about and want to do instead, and then that pays for someone to take care of that boring shit for you, why wouldn't you do that? This is something that some blocks might come up for you around like worthiness, or just, fear of wealth and class divides and things like that, like, hiring people to work with you. I get that. So maybe that will be a podcast episode later. If this is something you're interested in, oh my God, send messages to me and we can talk about it. This is something that I'm still working through a little bit too. So I have, in the past, I've hired cleaners to come to my house and take care of things for me. And it's something that I struggle to do consistently too. And even when it was happening, I felt a little weird, being outside of my home and someone taking care of those pieces for me. But it was such a gift to myself. It was a gift of my time back, because, because this was their job and something that they're interested in doing. I worked directly with someone locally, like this was their small business and this thing that they liked to do. I was able to support them on, on their goals and what they wanted to do. And then they were supporting me towards my goals, so then I was able to free up time to work on my business instead and, reach more people and help more people in this kink space. So look at this, and then go through all these steps again, look at them that way as well. Okay, so these are like high level descriptors, and I did take you through some specific examples of way that you could do this for your own life. But hey, you're in this podcast because you are interested in service subbing for someone else, either someone that is currently in your life or someone that you want to be in your life in the future, something that you desire. So you could totally go through all of these steps too for things that you want to do with your partner. One of the personal examples I'll bring in, because I have a little bit of a service submission desire as well. I felt called a few months ago to just, I wanted to, when I entered either my home or my partner's home, I wanted to take my dom's shoes off for him. And it was something I really enjoyed doing, but later on my kink path, it just didn't scratch the same itch anymore. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. And I realized that was one of those things that could be eliminated. Like, this is something that no one actually had to do. Like, no one had to take my dom's shoes off for him. He was perfectly capable of doing that for himself. And so that was okay if when I decided a few months later that actually I don't want to do this anymore, it was okay that I didn't have to, because, that thing didn't need to happen from someone else. Like, my partner is capable of doing that themselves too. So there are probably a lot of tasks in your service submission that are things that, again, don't actually need to be done by anyone really, but you're just feeling this desire to do it. So it's okay to acknowledge that, this is something that doesn't actually need to happen. So it's okay if in a few months I don't want to do this thing anymore. Like, the world won't collapse, things will be fine. I can communicate that, and yeah, we can move forward in a different way. But especially if there are things that like are non-essential services that you want to take on. If you're wanting to take these on, but something is stopping you, like the time, or something like that, or just the bandwidth, like you're totally zapped after taking care of your own to-do list, go through these systems for your freaking life so that you can free up some of your time and capacity to be able to, have that time and attention to do that for someone else. And then I'd really recommend leaning into the automating, systemizing, and batch piece for whenever there's something you're interested in, you're wanting to serve your partner in a certain way. But again, this is a hyperfixation now, and you're not sure if this is going to be a consistent thing. You can totally take that hyperfixation energy that you have now to set up strong systems so that, you're able to manage this for your partner over a longer period of time. I can totally bring this back to a client example, but I will not do that because, even though, of course, I wouldn't talk about their identity, I'll let that be like, a one-on-one conversation with me and them. But yes, that is about all I have to say about this episode. Sorry this one went on for so long. This is actually not all that I have to say about this episode. I could keep going because this is my current hyperfixation. But for the sake of, this podcast not being an hour long, I will end it here. Thank you so much for listening, friends. Ooh, my dog was done too. He just hopped down from the couch if you heard him. I will see you in the next episode. And again, if you want to chat, like if you're having a hard time with the creativity piece and coming up with these items for yourself, this is absolutely something we could talk about in mentorship. Because I'm a kink mentor, so we can totally work one-on-one. All the links for all of the things are in the show notes. I also realized I do have an Amazon storefront, so I'll post that too if you're interested in the robot vacuum and the robot, like the countertop washing machine that I use. And maybe I'll find some other machines I like to use too that I'll throw in there as well. So that, you can learn about those too if that seemed like a system that could work for you. And I will chat with y'all in the next one. Goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me this episode. You can follow the podcast on the platform where you're listening to get updates with new episodes. You can follow me on social media at Kinky Bestie. I'm on Instagram. You can also check the show notes for any links or resources that I talked about in this episode, or just more ways to connect with me. And please share this with your kinky friends who could benefit from this type of content. There is also an option for each podcast episode to engage with Q&As or polls. So I'd love to hear from you and create future episodes around what you want to chime in with. So please check those out in the show notes too. And I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.